Hi, this is Walter Bryan Rochester here. I have some encouraging words for you today, so listen up. In this series of videos, we're going to be talking about the topic, Dare to be Honest. We want to encourage everyone out there, everyone who's listening, everyone during this COVID-19 pandemic to be honest with yourself. In this time of reflection, it's important to be honest with yourself and to be honest with others. And today in particular, we're going to zero in on the person in the mirror, the man in the mirror. And so we're going to be talking about the enemy within. The enemy within could come about for a number of reasons. It could be because it's part of your nature. You know, there's just some side of you, some darkness, some spiritual something that causes you to have this dark side. It could also be as a result of your heritage. There's some people who exhibit very similar behaviors to their parents, even though they may or may not have ever been in close relationships with them, or maybe they never even met them, but they make similar mistakes and have similar habits and behaviors as their parents. And some of those could be more on the eccentric side, but some of them could also be on the more the unrighteous side, or the immoral side, or unethical side. So it's very important for us to deal with the enemy within. We all have something dark within us. And this can also be as a result of experiences, maybe an experience of abuse or some dark, evil thing that has happened in our past that has caused us to create our own darkness. There's also the fact that we could end up creating evil within our minds by thinking on things that are negative all the time. We could create our own darkness by doing so and allowing our minds to be taken over by darkness. There's also, of course, spiritual things where a demonic spirit could literally come and live inside of you, God forbid, or even some people are oppressed. They aren't controlled by any evil spirits out there, but they are being attacked by them. So today I want to address the enemy within. So I've already brought up some of the reasons the enemy can exist within yourself. But I just want to make sure that it's very important that you and I stop what we're doing, and before we begin to blame others for the problems that we experience, we first examine our own selves, our own hearts, our own minds. Because if something is wrong with your heart, if something is wrong with your heart or your mind, and there are problems that are existing in your relationships that are around you, and you are blaming everyone else and not seeing yourself as part of the problem, or as perhaps even the problem, then your problem is going to continue to exist for a very, very long time. And even if you shift environments, even if you are paired up with other people, or even if you change jobs, or you change the people you usually relate to, some people divorce someone, they get remarried. If the problem is really you solve absolutely nothing by remarrying someone else, or even switching your working environment, because you carry the darkness with you. So figure out if it really is you. Okay, out of all the different kind of dark things that could exist, we have to first address those that exist within the mind. Of course, last time I talked about depression and things like that. Here I'm more speaking about having a more negative type of persona, misjudging people or others, and therefore seeing their actions as problematic when perhaps their actions may be neutral. Sometimes they're even good. So you have to identify if you are a negative thinker. You know, someone can even say the best things or even do the best things, and somehow you still interpret it to be bad, right, or negative. If that is the case in your life, if you find that everyone is always against you and they're always fighting you down and things like that, then it's time to re-examine. Maybe it's not them, maybe it's my thinking. Okay, another thing I want to address here is when we tend to have bad habits, really bad habits that have pulled us in and we have become addicted to it. It may not be a drug, it even may not be alcohol or alcoholism, but it can be something pretty neutral, like playing video games or even watching television. When we have become addicted to something so much that we no longer think about or care about the people who are around us and people who love us the most, then we have become the problem. Some people are even addicted to work. They work too much, or they work a lot, and they don't pay attention to their kids. They don't pay attention to their wife, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whomever is significant in their lives. And of course, they don't pay attention to their creator, and that really can cause a problem. Don't let your work become a bad habit. Okay, so as human beings, we have to be balanced. We have to understand the importance of different aspects in our lives. And so it's important that we don't develop bad habits. If we are doing something for many, many hours and it's causing a lot of pain, rather than bringing joy and happiness into our lives, and rather than bringing joy and happiness into the lives of others, because yes, it could be that we're going through pain, but we're bringing a lot of joy and happiness to others. But if those two things aren't there and everyone is upset with what you're doing, then maybe it's time for a change in terms of your habits. Okay, so of course, if you have a habit that is literally addicting, I'm talking about on the biological level. I mean, it's something you can't control. Of course, you have to kind of seek out serious help for that, like a rehabilitation center, that type of help. Some people do some extreme things. For example, exposing themselves to too much of whatever they're trying to stop doing, and therefore creating within themselves some type of hatred for it. Your creator is awesome though. He always, if you are connected to God in a real living way, he does things within our lives in order to cause us to actually hate bad habits and to cause us instead to embrace that which is good. If you're not connected to the creator, at least not yet, the fact of the matter is we all have to do whatever we can do to make sure that we're not propagating bad habits in our lives. Sometimes those bad habits they link to things like eating disorders and social distancing. Not the kind of social distancing that we're doing right now, but of course, just not reaching out to other people, being too internalized and too self-absorbed, and sometimes even creating thoughts within oneself that everyone else is an idiot while you are the smart one. That's called narcissism, by the way. So these are all bad habits that we could develop, and we have to address them sufficiently and ensure that these bad habits aren't controlling us. Okay, another enemy within has to do with spiritual disorder, right? So we talked about habits, we talked about negative thinking, habits and behaviors that are external, but there are also spiritual disorders. And one of the spiritual disorders that we have within us is we have a nature or a tendency to go against what the Creator originally intended for us. And then there are elements, there are forces even outside of our bodies and even within us that kind of force us or push us towards doing that which is wrong in the Creator's sight. This has nothing to do with your protopsy or where you came from and how you grew up. It just has to do with nature within you, something that was passed on. Beyond this, there are spiritual elements, dark elements out there that can influence your thinking and can influence the way you behave as well. These spirits, we refer to them, or scriptures refer to them as demons or devils. The devil's intent is to ensure that you do not progress in the way that God will have you to progress. And of course, part of their intent is to destroy your life in the long run or the short run, or to destroy the lives of others. So if you have a voice telling you to do things that would bring harm to yourself, or a voice that is telling you to do things that will bring harm to others, and that is something that is consistent, meaning it happens a lot and you cause a lot of people to cry, you're bringing a lot of pain to people over and over again, not because of the truth, not because you're trying to do what's best, but because some voice is telling you to behave in a particular way, it could well be that you are being influenced by one of these demonic or devilish powers. So you need to seek out help. Seek out someone who's like a pastor or church leader or an exorcist, and make sure that your mind is not being controlled by these types of elements. Okay, if in the case these voices are beginning to lead you, and when you try to get away from them, you can't get away from them, or they're beginning to control your body, that means you're definitely possessed and you need a lot of help. So whenever you get the chance, because God is going to make some way for you to get a chance, whenever you get a chance to reach out, immediately do. Those might be small pieces, small time frames. It might just be 5 minutes, it just might be 10, but reach out to someone immediately. If you are someone who's a believer and you realize that you're not under the control of these voices, but they're just causing you a lot of negativity and causing you to think negatively and causing you to remember lots of painful memories, then even then it's wise to seek out counsel at least. And it's also important when it comes to these types of voices to ensure that those voices aren't just coming from yourself. Maybe your mind is messed up itself. In those cases, definitely. So that's why you want to check out someone who's spiritual. It might be able to determine if it is something spiritual or if it's just something in your mind. And if your mind is sick, yes, you should go. You can always go to God, and in everything you can go to God, go to someone who's spiritual, but definitely see a psychologist, and beyond that, see even a psychiatrist if you could. So, of course, at Revive 19, we partner with people who are in these types of fields in the hopes that we could bring holistic healing to individuals. But I always encourage people as a leader in my community, as a leader in communities that I'm around, I always encourage people to take care, to fix themselves, right, before reaching out and trying to fix others. Fixing yourself is the most important thing. As a matter of fact, the Lord Jesus Christ even uses this verse in terms of, or he speaks these words in terms of when it comes to making decisions about the lives of others. He says we shouldn't be making decisions about others in terms of whether they're good or bad, or in terms of what they should be doing or should not be doing, unless we first take care of the things that are in our lives, in our eyes, in our minds. And of course, here I'm just kind of explaining, but he actually uses the words, judge not that you be not judged. So basically speaking, we need to first remove things from our eyes and from our minds that are distracting us, the negativity, the demonic influence, devilish influence, bad habits. We need to get rid of those things first so that we have the perspective, the correct perspective, in order to help others. So don't try to help out other people too much unless you are significantly and sufficiently addressing the problems that are existing within you. So deal with the evil within. This has been Walter Brian Rochester. I hope this encouraged you.